KMPLX Fitness. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Alright, so today we're going to look at tracking weight and how to do that accurately. So this is the way I would track weight with my clients. Just to give a bit of background, I'd say up to somewhere between 30 to 40% of my clients track their weight now. So I will not get someone to track their weight if they're going to once in a fortnight or once a week or randomly throughout the week. You're kind of, if you're tracking weight with me, you're either all in or you're not, just because it's not a priority if you're not all in. And if you want to be all in, you're going to get a bigger picture. So the people who track their weight are people who do, like people who like data will track their weight. And it's great to see the fluctuations, the averages. It's great to see the data in front of you on a spreadsheet and be able to understand that weight is changeable from day to day, from week to week, even within the day that it's changeable. And I think that's definitely important to see. But most people who I get to track are people who are already maybe, or who have started tracking their food. So let's say someone is tracking their food and they want to lose weight. Their goal is to get into a deficit. So first of all, you can do loads of these different tests online to calculate your maintenance or your deficit or whatever. Maybe you might do 2 or 3 of those, get an average of it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to try log that on something like MyFitnessPal, and away you go. Now, that's all well and good, and you're going to see changes as you go down. But the best thing to do alongside with that is to take your weight. Then you have the full picture. So if you see on average that your weight is coming up and shooting up, it's obvious that you're overestimating your calories, or you're underestimating your activity, or both. So it gives you a full picture, and it allows you to intervene on that quicker than, let's say, if you just do it for a month, track your food for a month, and then you notice, Jesus, you know what, I've gained a bit of weight. Should we make a change? If I see 2 weeks in that weight is going up, we can make that intervention there and then. So it does give you the full picture. That is the main reason people do it with me, and I am going to just run through just basically tracking 101 here and how to do it on average and how I would do it with my clients. So tracking weight with complete accuracy is the name of this slide, or this lecture, or whatever you want to call it. So most people make the mistake of random weigh-ins. And when I say random weigh-ins, I don't just mean week to week, like maybe a Monday and a Wednesday week, 10 days apart or something like that. I mean, like even as far as you could weigh in Monday morning, not even write it down, commit it to memory. Maybe you're a point of a few pounds off, and then Wednesday week you go in the evening after your dinner, you weigh in, you look at your weight, you're not sure what the last one was, but you have a ballpark and you're thinking, oh, I'm around that weight. Yeah, I haven't really lost weight or gained weight, I'm still the same. Or you might just feel you've gone up in weight from one weigh-in, and this kind of just takes any guesswork out, and it works for everything. It works for whether you're trying to gain, lose, or maintain. Now, I'm going to be speaking from the point of losing weight because I think it's the most appropriate, seeing as most people who I've worked with who have tracked their weight, the goal has been weight loss. So, first things first, it's important to know that your weight fluctuates daily, never mind from day to day or week to week. So your weight is going to fluctuate within one day. If you weigh in the morning and the evening, there could be differences easily. If you weigh in and you go and take a big dump and you weigh in, there's probably going to be a difference in your weight. Well, there will be a difference in your weight. If you weigh in, you go have a meal, maybe within an hour or two, you have nearly a litre of water, you're going to weigh heavier. So it's just important to understand that you need to be consistent with your weigh-ins. So we need to nail a time that we're going to do the weigh-ins, that we can compare it across the days. Because if you weigh in on a Monday morning before you eat, after you take a dump, you log that weight. Then Tuesday, maybe you go and you weigh in at lunchtime and you have 2 meals in you and lots of water, and maybe you haven't taken a dump in a few hours. Like, they're not that comparable. So you want it to be comparable across the board. So going by averages is the way forward. Now, before I get into it, I'm just going to go over, this is going to be a tracking 101. It's going to be a very basic, and I'm afraid it's going to mainly apply. It's going to apply to everyone, but it's easier for males. So before we begin, I am going to make the distinction. There is a difference between tracking weight with averages for males and females. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to speak about tracking week to week. I will touch on tracking specifically for women and considerations to make at the end of today's slides. But I hope to do another full video on tracking weight for women in more detail, just on its own, where I can give you maybe 10 minutes of detail and not just a few minutes at the end of this. But for now, we're just doing tracking 101. So common practice. It is very common practice to just weigh in for people to get their weight 1 to 2 times a week. So let's break that down with an example here. So you can see I have Monday through Sunday, and 4 of the days are non-applicable. 5 of the days are non-applicable, and 2 of the days we have a weigh-in. So the first day is 76 pounds, and then the Friday we weigh in, we're down 2 pounds. Great, brilliant. You're after coming down 2 pounds, success within a week. But have you just come down 2 pounds? I mean, you just have 2 weigh-ins to go off. You have nothing really else. So it's important to get the full picture. Let's look at a different example. So you only weigh in Monday and Tuesday. Let's say you weigh in Monday and you're at 176 pounds, which is the same as the last Monday. All the numbers are going to be the same here. On Tuesday, you're up 2 pounds. So, maybe that's going to give you a big fright. You're adding weight. All of a sudden, you might start restricting yourself and cutting down calories way too low because you're panicked. You're after putting up 2 pounds in a day. This is awful. Maybe whereas the last slide where we were down 2 pounds, you think, oh, this is brilliant. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, even though maybe you're not actually down 2 pounds in weight, which I will explain. Another example, maybe you only weigh in Monday and a Wednesday and you can see you're up 0.5 of a pound. So again, you're thinking, this is bad. I'm after ruining the last 2 or 3 days. This is not going well. I need to change everything I'm doing. So consistency is important. So let's look at the full picture. So here it is, Monday through Sunday. So we weigh in all of these days, track the times. At the end of the week, we get the average. So you can see the average weight this week is 175.79 pounds. So some people like to say, okay, well, for Monday, my average or my weight has gone down 0.2 of a pound. But I wouldn't even consider that. I would just take that average weight and I would say, that is my week 1 average weight. Let's block that up there, write it in the copy, and let's just go through the same thing on week 2, getting the averages and comparing like to like. So another thing here is people get really bogged down if they've missed a day. They think it's going to throw it off completely. Like if you're getting just 4 days, it's better than just doing 1 or 2 days if you're getting a 4-day average. Obviously the more days the better, the more data the better always, but like don't get too bogged down in this. If you're getting your averages of 4 or 5 days, you're going to be doing well enough to track it accurately, or at least more accurately than once or twice a week. So consistency is important. Must look at the full picture. So same time every single day, before breakfast, after the bathroom, usually a good time. Same clothes, same scale, same floor beneath the scales. Even I find some scales on tiles and wood can read differently, or on carpet. Make sure it's in the same spot. Make sure if you have 2 scales, it's the one scale you're using. Make sure you're wearing the same clothes or lack of clothes, whatever way you like to weigh in. If you weigh in jocks, weigh in jocks again. You want to make everything as consistent as possible so everything can be comparable. So keep that in mind. That's definitely important. So weight fluctuates day to day. It's normal. I went over that at the start. You can still weigh in heavier on a given day and you can lose weight over time. So going back to that example earlier, you saw on Tuesday he had weighed in heavier. On Wednesday this person had weighed in heavier. By Friday it was down. And then by the end of the week the average was actually down. So the good thing about weighing in is that you almost gain confidence because you know there's no guesswork. You can see exactly what's happening. You can trust that, okay, well, if my weight's gone up today, it's not the end of the world. Stick to the plan. It's going to come down with time. Like a lot of things like that with people I've worked with, it can be as simple as you're retaining onto or holding onto a bit of water. You may have had a pizza the night before, still stuck to your calories, but maybe your carb intake was high and you're holding a bit of water from the sodium and salt, and you might feel a bit bloated. Your activity mightn't have been as high, so maybe you're just holding on to a bit of water, things like that. So it's important to not panic and stick to the plan. The most important thing is you can intervene when aligned with tracking with food and calories, or you can intervene anyway. Let's say if you're just tracking weight and you're not tracking calories, but you know you're pretty much eating the same thing all the time. If you see your weight's going up, you can say, right, well, it's obvious I need to change something. Let's start to manipulate the portions on my plate, or eliminate a food group or a meal or something, or eliminate something. or substitute it for a lower calorie option. Of course, there's loads of ways of doing it, but it is just important to understand that it's a long-term thing, and as long as you're tracking accurately, you will get the full pictures. So how to track and compare your averages of week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3, week 3 to week 4. Then you get the 4 weeks, you get a month average, and you compare month 1 to month 2, and so on and so forth. This is a lot easier for men, which brings me to the next slide. Tracking for women. Again, I just said I'm going to touch on it. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but I'm only going to go over considerations here as stated at the beginning. So as I hope to do a more detailed slide down the line, these are the kind of points I'll be touching on. So you want to apply the same principles as I've just gone over, which is averages. But you need to understand that for a lot of you, you can't compare week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. You must compare phases to phases. When I speak about phases, I'm talking about your cycle. So just a quick run over the obvious. This is more important for the men out there. So day 1 to 7, period. Day 1 to 14, your follicular phase, which is week 1 and 2. Let's just call it week 1 and 2 for now. Day 14, ovulation. Then day 14 to day 28 is week 3 and week 4. So during your follicular phase is when training load can be higher, testosterone is rising right up to day 14, and your ability to perform is much higher. During the luteal phase, you can see up to a 40% decrease in performance, which is normal. Testosterone begins to drop quite rapidly, and during this phase, you will burn 100 to 300 more calories on average. And that would explain the cravings, obviously. So what a lot of people do is, which I'll go on to in the next slide, is they track and they compare a little bit differently. So as a woman, how do I compare weigh-ins? Still get the weekly averages, and rather than comparing week to week, compare phase to phase. So for example, if week 1 is your period, day 1 to 7, compare that against phase 2. So week 1, day 1 to 7 of the next phase. Still get your monthly averages because all of the phases will be into that month, and compare month to month. That's still going to throw up some accurate readings for you, whether you're on the way up or the way down weight-wise. Some people eat in a deficit. This is just an example of what some people do. Seen in the follicular phase, people feel great. Some people eat in a deficit there. They create their deficit in the first 2 weeks, and then they eat around maintenance or slightly above, but still staying in a deficit overall for weeks 3 and 4 while they're in the luteal phase. And as a result, the monthly average will drop. So again, they're just some considerations, just running over a few small minor details of how to track and how to accurately compare. Because for a lot of women at the start, it's going to work. You're like week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4, like you could see weight coming down perfectly week to week. But there will come a time for some people starting, it is that time that you must compare like for like. And you can't just go comparing week to week. And that's just the fact of it. What now? So, both men and women, track weight, be patient, find what works for you in the long run. That's the really important thing, is finding what works, what's sustainable. Most people speak of an ideal weight to drop weekly being 2 pounds or whichever. For me, to be honest, it comes down to a few things. It comes down to, if you have a lot to lose, then yes, 2 pounds or more can be perfect. If you don't have that much to lose, it could be a pound to a half a pound. If you have a high training age, you've been training a while, you've put on a bit of weight, like everyone's going to be different. That might be 2 pounds a week, 1 pound a week. As long as it's coming down and as long as you're comparing like to like and you are seeing the trends that you want to see, it's all good. Don't get too caught up on what you should be losing. If you have a weight goal, let's say I'm 85 kg and my weight goal is 80 kg, put that in the back locker, have it there. But if you're 85 kg, think, right, I'm going to get to 84. Then get to 84, I'm going to get to 83, and just take it step by step. You're going to have to be really patient with something like this. This is something that if you drag it out or draw it out over a longer period of time in a more sustainable manner, you'll more than likely kick that weight for longer. But if this is something that you just go hammer and tongs and you nail it from day one and you're dropping 10 pounds a week or 8 pounds a week, like, there's a chance you might see them pounds quicker than you'd like to. They might come back a bit quicker. So the quicker you lose, from my experience, the quicker they're coming back. So always look for the sustainable approach towards tracking weight and losing weight. So I hope this helped. And again, if anyone has any questions or anyone wants me to cover any topics, just drop me a DM. I'll put a link to my Instagram below. Thank you.